live. We are
Live
live.
now.
Yes,
Yes.
now we are live. And we are really fortunate today to have as our guest Ben Connelly, who is a Soto Zen teacher for the Minneapolis Zen Center. Is that right?
Minnesota Zen Meditation.
Minnesota Zen Meditation, yeah. And at this point, you're not considered a Zen priest yet, right? I forget. I never know how that
Oh, no,
works.
I was ordained as a priest in 2009. And so you could call me a priest or a teacher. I'm the guiding teacher at the Minnesota Zen Meditation.
That's right. Thank
Great.
you. And great author, wonderful author whose books, who just came out with well, not anymore. It's been out for a few months now, I guess, uh, since the fall. A wonderful book on the Flower Garland Sutta. Um, but we're really happy to have you here because everything you've been involved with it in the uh, city of Minneapolis, which I know has been intense for you and everybody else in that city. And a couple of weeks ago, we were talking about one form of engaged practice that the Buddhist monks
Mm-hmm.
walking from Fort Worth to Washington have been engaged in, and then the kind of engagement you've been intensely involved with in the occupied city of Minneapolis, I guess I could say.
What has it been like?
Yeah.
How has life been?
Yeah. It's it, it's a little hard to explain. I would say probably if you don't live here, the brutality and lawlessness of ICE is worse than you think, probably. But it's mostly happening under cover of secrecy. So the strategy is largely to try and swoop in. So people are often abducted. Like an example that's happened many times is they'll drive up to a car, they'll ram the car, they'll pull a person out of the car, they'll leave the car running in the street and drive away within like 3 or 4 minutes. And so those kind of things have happened many, many times. That's just an example. We could go on and on and on. So you might think like, oh, it's a city consumed by riots. That is not true. Like you can, especially if you're a white person and you don't want to engage with ICE, you could pretty much go about your life. There's an enormous amount of stress here. But so this is happening now. Having said that, people are very scared, and more importantly, people are being incredible. So, although there's all this violence and trauma coming to the community, the level of organizing and care and support is mind-boggling. Like someone I know, like we're going to form a mutual aid organization, and they started pulling people in, and then like a bunch of our Zen Center members got involved, and they've raised like hundreds of thousands of dollars to pay rent for people who are not safe to leave their homes right now. People are delivering food. They're just like, just walking through the neighborhood, there'll be a bunch of, people on the street with signs saying like ICE out, abolish ICE, and people just caring for each other in all these ways. And then there's been some incredible organizing. I'm very involved with Buddhist and multi-faith organizing, and we've just been doing some stuff I could never have imagined. It's awesome.
Yeah. I saw some of I had a friend that was there for the event you did 2 weeks ago, right? 2 weeks ago, Friday. Today.
Yeah. So I just want to talk about that. So there was going to be a general strike. It was organized with labor unions involved and a lot of other organizations, multi-faith organizations. And so it was like the target date was coming up at about 8 or 9 days away. And some friends of mine in a group called March, Multi-Faith Anti-Racist Change and Healing, were like, what if we did a national call for faith leaders to come here and participate in this and have a day of witness and training and preparation, and then take them out into the streets of Minneapolis? So that was 8 days warning. Within 3 days, they'd figured out how to like launch the whole thing, and we had 400 registrants. And so in a span of 8 days, we went from the idea of doing the thing to having 650 people fly into Minneapolis, 650 faith leaders, do a full day of witness training, nonviolence, civil disobedience training, stuff on non-cooperation with authoritarianism, on the community care networks that we're doing in Minnesota. And then people jumped into various actions on Friday. I was just like, I can't believe that I was a part of this phenomenon.
Yeah.
And I can tell you, we were real tired on Monday.
I bet. But it was also like ridiculously cold on that Friday. I mean, it was
Oh yeah.
ridiculous here in Chicago, and it was probably 5 degrees colder up there.
Yeah,
And
I took a bus load of 50 clergy to do ice patrol on Lake Street here. So we drove out and they just deployed onto the street to watch, and they didn't see any violence, but they saw some harassment by ICE just in the 40 minutes we were out. But it was 10 degrees below zero.
yeah,
Some of these people were from California and
right. Well, my friend was a Unitarian minister from Burlington, and she was cold. Burlington, Vermont, and even
it was cold.
it's like, yeah,
It was
she
cold.
said her nose had burned inside. It was so cold. But wow, yeah, I mean, it's just, the same thing as we don't have down here in Chicago. We don't, we're sort of preparing for them to come back, although who knows now. And there are certainly a lot of faith organizations, and I'm involved in one of the Hyde Park area groups. That's, just on the Signal channel, but it's nothing like what you've been doing.
What is it like going out there and being on the, out there with these other faith leaders? What is it like on a sort of a moment to moment basis?
Yeah, well, I started showing up in the streets as a priest in 2016 after Jamar Clark was killed by police officers in North Minneapolis, and there was an occupation led by Black Lives Matter Minneapolis at the 4th Precinct, and the police had started coming in and just being kind of brutal, and so that prompted me to think, I just want to be there with my body representing this tradition in the space where this brutality is happening as a bearing witness. And so I was doing that sort of thing for many years, and we had Philando Castile was murdered, George Floyd was murdered, and actually many other young Black unarmed men have been murdered in Minneapolis since. So I spent a lot of time just being present in the street. Sometimes, the situation is fraught. Sometimes it's very warm and connected, but I've been tear gassed in a row before. So for me, an interesting thing has happened personally, which is that now it seems like it's more useful for me to be going to Zoom meetings and helping plan documents and help organize. So I haven't been at any like really fraught street actions, and there's been some very, as I mean, people have been murdered in the street by ICE. And so, so my personal experience has been not super activating in that way.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's an opportunity to get over my ego and not be like, oh, I need to be the brave, courageous. I'm just, where is the utility I have as a human being with a commitment to collective liberation? And what does that look like now? And this is the root to me of Zen practice. How can I enact a vow now, understanding the phenomena that would be normally considered to be me, so my feelings and body and thoughts, and the environment I'm in. So, but overall, I know I'm involved with a lot of faith leaders and just general community leaders who are just beautiful, amazing people who are really committed to enacting their vision of universal love and collective liberation, and it's beautiful.
You have it's a multi-religious, multi-ethnic group, I'm sure, that you're with. What is it like that? How is that manifested?
Well, my favorite part of multi-faith work is it's just relationships. So for me, practice is fundamentally about relationships. So when I sit Zazen, I'm just recognizing my relationship to the universe. And when I do ceremonies at the Zen Center, I'm recognizing the relationship to the universe, but through the lens of the relationship to a Buddhist tradition. So things like that. And so, yeah, I mean, I've been going to meetings that sometimes are very boring. over the years with multi-faith leaders, because that's the only way I will be able to be in deep and authentic relationship with people across difference. And the truth is, it's very, very hard to organize in fraught times if you don't have those relationships. So we have a lot of infrastructure here. And sometimes I've done multi-faith organizing that has gotten incredibly fraught. You have global conflicts that really affect people here all over the world, in India and in Israel and Palestine. But then also you just have in the United States profound fractures, white people who just don't understand how racism works. And so there's challenges, but I think that's the practice, is to be in samsara in a liberative way. This is a rambling answer. One of my favorite things that happens during multi-faith actions is we sing. I get to hear how people pray. I think Christians are always a little bit reticent because they're such a dominant religion. So in a multi-faith space, they're often trying to take a back step, and I really appreciate that. But I love it. I love to hear Christians pray. And there's a lot of emphasis on somatic healing and well-being in these communities, which ties really deeply to mindfulness of body, which is the core of my practice. So I don't know. I love singing. I could go to protests and sing all day. I'll just tell you, there's a great group called Singing Resistance that's kind of part of the
Yeah, I've heard them on YouTube.
And my favorite, I've been in the street with them, but they just recently did an action. They went outside some hotels that house ICE, and they all just stood out there and sang a song that said, "It's okay to change your mind. You can join us anytime." And it wasn't mean. It wasn't sarcastic. It was like, yes, it's okay to change your mind. You could just be like, yeah, I want to do nonviolence instead of violence. That's an option. You're welcome.
Have there been any converts?
There are converts. If you want to, I don't know about from ICE, but maybe. But if you don't want authoritarianism to take over, we have to make room for people who were supporting the authoritarian regime to come and try something else.
Yeah, because we tend to treat them as the enemy, and that's not helpful.
No.
I was working with the group. Well, actually, our daily sangha, but also last night I was teaching about Tonglen, and just how difficult it can be to sort of open yourself up, open the practice up to those who are most challenging us, and yet how important it is, to see beyond the other. And especially in the situation that Minneapolis is in, that must be incredibly challenging. And that's where your practice really it's really where the rubber hits the road, right? It's like, my God.
And dealing with anger, I would think, would be a real issue. At least it has been for me, and I'm not even in Minneapolis. I mean, I'm out here. But it's just it's trying to, at least for me, is trying to deal with the anger. I mean, to see the anger and not to try to repress it, but at the same time not to let it overwhelm. And that's tough.
Yeah, that can be very difficult. And I think you put it really nicely. It's like when there's anger, just trying to know it as anger itself. And that ties back to what Jon was saying about not objectifying people. So normally with anger or a lot of emotions, we fixate on the mental object, the idea we have. And if we can just know the feeling itself, then we diminish the degree to which our mind is creating a world of others. And, I spend very little time thinking about how to have compassion for ICE agents or whatever. And I think that is a worthy thing, and it's part of the tradition. But that can be really, really hard for people to hear. And, so I'm coming in with a lot of privilege. I'm in a pretty safe situation. I'm a white person. I'm male. You know what I mean? So then that can be kind of hard to deliver to broad audiences or even to just the people at our Zen Center, which is a little bit narrower. But I tend to focus on, I might say this more explicitly in this context because there's Buddhists here. I might say it in some way that somehow is more general. But I understand the world to be made of conditions. And as a person who really focuses on Yogacara and Huayan teachings, the conditions that are the most important to me are intentional or motivational conditions, because those are the ones where we as human beings have agency. So that is to say, things like love and compassion and violence and harmfulness and objectification. These are all things that come up in our consciousness and create the world we live in. So I'm like, I want to not be engaging in objectification. I want to not be engaging in violence. I want to be actively engaging in nonviolence, which is an action. Nonviolence is actually meeting violence with something else. I want to be engaging in compassion, and I want to be supporting and encouraging people to do that. And so instead of thinking like, you need to be compassionate and you need to not objectify those people and you need not to judge them, I just say, we're all in a web of conditions that's characterized by all these phenomena of objectification, violence, nonviolence, compassion. If I want to have compassion, let's do it. Let's do it now. And where's the most immediate ground? I'm super pissed. Well, be compassionate for that anger.
Yeah.
Start there. So that framing for me may be unsatisfying to some people and it may be confusing, but it enables us to sort of get off the thing where people have to sort of fight about whether they're justified about how they feel or about how they're judging people, and come back to like, I'm going to go in the street with nonviolence now because I want there to be nonviolence in the world.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's beautiful.
And you make it sound so easy.
Oh, yeah. It's not. We talk about it over and
Yeah.
over again because
Yeah.
it's hard.
Yeah. And if it weren't hard, maybe we wouldn't need it. But it is hard because of the situation and the condition. And it's even harder because it's so bloody cold out. But that's a whole other story. But like, if they were going to do this, why did they? I mean, I'm glad they didn't do it in the summer. That would have been a lot worse, probably. And but my God, yeah.
Do you think that the structures that you are putting into place just ad hoc right now, or the sorts of things that could continue on into the future?
Oh yeah, from the broadest perspective, coming back to Yogacara teachings, we're planting seeds. So
Right.
every moment that we are coming together and we're focused on building connection and care and kindness, that actually I actually believe, because I'm not like weirdly Buddhist, that is actually what is creating the world more than the details of like how we made the thing that made it happen. And there's a lot of philosophy and experience with which I could support my claim that what is the most important is that commitment and manifestation people are making to connection, compassion, care, nonviolence.
Mm-hmm.
But more practically speaking, I think this is kind of what you're getting at is like, what about these like networks of mutual aid and networks of mutual defense, these signal webs, so that if people are coming in and attacking your community, you can show up and film them doing it.
Yeah.
And yes, I think they do. And not only do I think they will go forward, but they are not new. So one of the reasons that ICE is in Minneapolis is because we already had these things. And that, I think, because we have a long-standing tradition of community organizing to take care of our community in the face of state violence. That's what, coming out of George Floyd Square, the community at George Floyd Square still has a daily meeting.
Wow.
Even in the winter. They get up in the morning and people just come and sit around and talk about how to enact liberation. And I mean, that's just one example. All over the city, there have been, March, the group I mentioned earlier that did that big organizing, we had a mutual aid community well network, just like put money in this pot and we'll give it to people who need it, since I joined 10 years ago.
Wow.
So this kind of organizing is there. And I think, I mean, I shouldn't really get into this, but I think the reason Minneapolis is under attack is because it represents that. And they thought if they can break us here, they will have a much stronger position to impose an authoritarian regime around the rest of the country. I don't know. I probably shouldn't get into that, but that's what it seems like to me.
Well, I mean, it's a big statement, but it seems to be the case. And it's, it's an example to everyone as to, how this can work. And it's, I mean, yes, Minneapolis is a much smaller city than New York or Chicago or Los Angeles, and it's one of the and generally more liberal place. Anyway, which makes it easier to do that. At the same time, just showing that it can be done and the way it's been done, and even just the singing. I love the singing in front of the hotels. I mean, and the somatic experience of that, is quite remarkable.
Mhm.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see, obviously, how it all evolves. But
I just want to say something about, I feel really good about a lot of things that have happened here. At the same time, like I could have a lot of critiques about Minneapolis and how we actually,
of course,
a lot. And this is, I live in Minneapolis, so I tend to use that term, but this really is affecting the whole web of, especially the metro area of the Twin Cities here, and then outstate. And what we're seeing now is, they're like, oh, we're drawing down 700 officers from here, but now we're seeing people being harassed more in smaller towns and
right.
suburbs. So it is. I don't want to be alarmist, but it would be great for people to just know, they're going to be
Coming
trying
your way.
things in various places, and this isn't about hating someone or even thinking a lot about how they're wrong. It's just about saying, if violence comes, what is a way to stand in the face of violence with nonviolence? If harmfulness comes, where is the ground of compassion? When alienation is being generated, what is my path of creating connection? And there are the opportunities, they're always there. This is not new. If you read, I'm more likely to be reading Zen literature when it comes to Buddhist literature, but there's all this unbelievable expressions of peacefulness and beauty and connection. Then if you read the historical context in which many of them happened, there were warfare. I was like teaching this beautiful poem at a Dharma talk the other day, and then I read the historical account of the woman's life. Her teacher died. They were both 38 years old, and he died because he starved to death, because there was no food, because of the war they were living through. And this poem she wrote was just about connection and care. So like, it's important to realize we are part of many lineages. And we're not starting something. We are part of something.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. It's really beautiful. I am curious, like within your Sangha itself, is the whole Sangha involved? Or is, I mean, how does that work?
Yeah. No matter what, I mean, it's just going to be like weird. I mean, the whole of everything is always involved in everything.
Yeah.
So it is useful to just, I like to name that. I would say the Minnesota Zen Meditation Center, in particular, which is the one I know the most about, there are lots and lots of people doing lots of really beautiful things, and it's extremely diverse. There's some people who like to go to protests. There's some who like to help manage the database for little sprung up mutual aid organizations, and I could go on and on. People are just standing outside the school where we're in their neighborhood because ICE has been harassing schools, which is so gross. Sorry. Anyway, so I could go on and on. I think there are some people who are not that involved. And one thing that's really important at a time like this is that people's lives go on.
Yeah.
So we can start to be like, oh, everyone feels this way. Everyone doesn't ever feel a way. We always feel a particular way for us. And one of my dear friends who's like an amazing organizer around Buddhist liberation, collective liberation stuff, they had a loss in the family, and we need to give them time to just, that's important. Are people who already have profound mental illness challenges, or they're just unemployed and they're struggling. So everyone's got their own deal.
Yeah.
I have no interest in figuring out what everyone has to do. I have like zero interest in how on earth would I know? So, but I will say there's a lot of connection and care and community and energy being built to take care of people at MZMC right now.
Hmm. Do you see a tension? I mean, I whenever I bring up issues of these kinds of issues of society and politics, there's always in my audience a tension between people who are drawn to action, activity, and that, and others who believe, and without, I mean, rightly, I suppose, that that the heart of Buddhist practice is something that is non-worldly, that is world transcending, and that these kinds of daily concerns are of less interest, or that the practice exists so that we can step back from them for a time and recharge, which I think is a more
That's
a more skillful way to look at it. But I don't know. What is your thought?
Yeah, well, I could say, generally speaking, most days I get up and I do about an hour and a half of formal practice, mostly sitting meditation, but also walking and chanting and bowing and stuff. And I've led a couple meditation retreats in the last couple of weeks. And I feel very, very fortunate that I can do that. So if you are able to practice, I wholeheartedly encourage you to do so, because it's wonderful. Those formal practices of Buddhism are powerful and transformative, and they can be really supportive to us as individuals and our communities. So that's great. I don't see practice as having any boundaries. To me, practice means what you're doing. So I understand it from a karmic perspective, which is what you are doing now is creating the grounds for what will be experienced. Just like if you practice scales on a piano, you create the grounds for piano scales. If you practice them badly, you create the ground for badly played piano scales. It's pretty simple. So practice is what you do. And then there are lots and lots of different kinds of practices. Sleeping is a practice. Meditation is a practice. Making food and delivering it to someone who can't leave their home because their parents were abducted and they don't know who's going to take care of them. We have people in this city, they're like children that ICE, instead of doing family separation, sometimes they just leave the children. I know people who witnessed, this is not uncommon, but just I'm thinking of a personal witness. They took the parent out of the car. There were just two children sitting in a running car in the street, and
I read about that.
they drove away. So why do I talk about that? Because then it's like, oh, what is my practice when that happens? What is my practice when that happens?
Wow.
But it's practice in the face of inhumanity. It's tough.
Yeah, but it's still, to me, it's all practice.
Yeah.
You can be compassionate and aware and develop that ability everywhere. And then you can say words while you do it. That's practice. It's in the Eightfold Path. You can move your body. That's in the Eightfold Path. It's cool. Try something.
Yeah.
We're not going to figure it all out. I'm like, Zen to me is a lot about try something.
Be creative.
Yeah.
It's all creative. Always. Never continual unfolding.
Yeah.
And I mean, I have to say, I'm just, so this is Ben's current book. Is that coming through in the right direction? I can't tell.
Inside the Flower Gardens.
Yeah. And I was just opening, one, just difference is sameness. That chapter, and it starts with one is all, the many are one. And there's something, everything you've just said is so related to everything in this teaching. And uh, this, the way we sometimes will separate things is just doesn't make. We can see it in your work and in the work and what's going on there, that there is no separation in that sense, unless it's created by us.
Mm.
And then how do we confront that, and how do we work with that? Yeah.
Yes, the Flower Garland Sutra, there's many themes, but one of them that would be pertinent here is it it uses Buddhist philosophy to try and point us towards taking care of what we think of as things. So, a lot of early Buddhist philosophy is really concerned with investigating the nature of consciousness, or the things we would consider our own consciousness, in order to move from a worldly position to the unconditioned. So, in Mahayana philosophy, the unconditioned and the conditioned, nirvana and samsara, are inseparable. They're always already here. So, you cannot access nirvana without engaging in samsara. It's not an option, nor can you be in samsara and be outside of nirvana, even though it really seems like it. And we fully acknowledge that it really seems like it. So, but then there's a slight pivot in the lens in Huayan to want to talk about taking care of, what we would think of as things. So cleaning, being attentive to food, being attentive to the people we're facing. And I think that is very timely in this practice. And something about, for those who would think we're trying to get away from the worldly, my practice is to go beyond the worldly directly through engaging with the worldly.
Mm.
And I don't actually think there's another option, to be honest, because even meditation is a worldly activity. So, yeah, but the Flower Garland Sutra, there are many themes that are very pertinent. It's about diversity of people, diversity of practices, diversity of needs. It's about celebrating. I talk a lot about how amazing it is here. That's directly a result of my engagement with the Flower Garland Sutra, which is about recognizing how beautiful and powerful people's liberative energies are and focusing on that. So I talk about the violence that's coming here because I think it's important for people to see it. We need the First Noble Truth to get going, but you don't want to dwell there. You want to pivot to the other steps in the path, which are recognizing there's possibility, and you can manifest that possibility with your body and mind every moment.
Yeah.
Is the three more noble truths after the first.
Yeah.
Wow. Thank you, Ben. It's been really motivating, actually.
Yeah.
to
Thank
hear
you for
your
what you're
words.
doing.
And
So important.
let's hope that the withdrawal continues. But
Have you seen any getting better or not?
It's hard to say. My own personal experience is my own.
Yeah.
I think the strategy. I think what's happening is that they're trying to shift and hide and cover up
Right.
what's happening.
Yeah.
But what I want to say is, because you're talking about hope and we've talked about singing, I want to sing you I'm going to sing you a bar.
oh, great.
Go right
Go
ahead.
for it.
Hold on, hold on, my dear ones, here comes the dawn. You may find a chance to sing that with others if you join in this movement of love and compassion.
Great.
Wonderful.
Thank you,
Thank you
sir.
so much. Yeah.
Thank you for having me here. It's great to chat with you both. Take care, my friends.
Thank you.
You as well.